Good morning, everyone. We have started the recording of the session. It is a recorded session for Decision 9C dual credit faculty expansion for the TCLAS initiative kickoff webinar. We don't currently see your screen, Christine.
I think that you are going to have to show the slides. I cannot figure out how to get my video to start.
Not a problem. We're going to get it going. Let me share my screen with y'all. Share screen too. All right. Thank y'all for sticking with us through the technical pieces of the day. My name is Crystal Garza, and I'm the statewide coordinator of college and career readiness school models. You're currently in the webinar for Decision Point 9C dual credit faculty expansion for TCLAS initiative onboarding webinars. Like I mentioned, we're very excited to have you all, lots of familiar faces for this 9C piece, a couple of early college and T-STEM contacts. So we're very excited and we want to welcome you and congratulate you on receiving the award. Dual credit faculty expansion is really important for me and Christine as well. So I'll go ahead and introduce her, Christine Bailey. If you've been in the network, you definitely recognize Christine and myself. She is the Assistant Director for Post-Secondary Success Programs, and we are both housed within the Division of College, Career, and Military Preparation. So in the other webinars, you might have heard me mention that within that division, we have career technical education, as well as counseling, advising, student supports, and advanced academics. So definitely get to know our faces so we can further assist you through the dual credit faculty expansion process. So some agenda and FYIs for today's webinar. We hope you feel very welcome as our last P-Tech stop of the day. A couple of introductions. We're going to do a deeper dive into the dual credit faculty expansion, and that will be with Christine in just a couple of minutes. Talk about some next steps. So we are going to be providing a lot of context for some of the documents that we would be looking for now that you've assured that you will be accepting the dual credit faculty expansion grants. There are quite a bit that might not be mentioned on the document that was sent out for TCLAS. So we want to make sure that you're aware of the timelines and make sure you're on board with some of those requirements. And of course, recap them because like we mentioned, some of the TCLAS components in the dual credit faculty expansion is building as we go along, like many of our other initiatives. So we'll recap those. Some FYIs, we will be utilizing the Q&A function of today's Zoom webinar. So if you have any questions, please drop them into the chat. I'm going to do my best to moderate those as we go along in the Zoom. And one last thing to mention is that this is being recorded currently, and the slides will be posted on the TCLAS website shortly after the webinar. So we'll move forward with the schedule so you can kind of see what how many webinars we're having today. So for some of the next steps, the portion for the confirmation survey is complete. It should have been completed by September 10th. So just make sure as you're listening to this webinar with the next steps that we will be asking you to complete, that your district is all in for the dual credit faculty expansion 9C. Currently, we're in the program onboarding kickoff webinar. Something I wish I had mentioned in my other webinars is that we're always here as a point of contact, and we can definitely schedule more webinars if we feel like there needs to be more demand for it. But currently, this is our TCLAS supported mandatory one, so you can get all the context that you need. The second piece was a PDF attachment that went along with your award confirmation survey. I want to make sure that if you have a TCLAS specific contact and you might be confused as to what some of the next steps would be for that, please reach out to the TCLAS website. That email will be at the end of the presentation. The third next step is that e-grant application, which we'll be talking about some of the webinars and office hours a little bit after this. The e-grant application I've checked has not been posted yet on the website, but I'm sure it will be very soon because there will be a webinar on that tomorrow. So we are September 16th today. We've gone through quite a bit of information and webinars on our P-Tech day. For anybody doing 2A and 2C later, those webinars are still scheduled, and it'll be a marathon for you all. Please stay up to date with those webinars. We still have quite a bit next Monday and as well as Tuesday for other program specific TCLAS initiatives. Something we want to make sure to point out, especially if you are not familiar with eGrants, is that there will be a webinar specific for eGrants. They will probably go over what is in the eGrant application that I previously mentioned. And they will have open office hours for 4 consecutive Fridays. So make sure to check those out. I know some of them are a little bit close to that PSAT date, but make sure to check out the webinar and those slides as well if you're not as familiar with eGrants. A great little snapshot for the bit.lys to register for the eGrants webinar or for the optional office hours. So you have a snapshot there. It's definitely worth going to those office hours to get your individual questions answered sooner rather than later. So I'm going to hand it over to Christine Bailey to talk a little bit more about dual credit faculty expansion.
And thank you, Crystal. Welcome, everybody. I also want to offer my congratulations to each of you. So I don't think you can see my face, but I am smiling and want to welcome all of our CCRSM campuses and the faculty that will benefit from this award. Will you advance, please? So I just wanted to anchor this funding opportunity with the mission of the Texas College and Career Ready School models. Our agency's mission is to connect high school students to college and career. This particular initiative ensures that we are building that innovative structure that allows for acceleration in order to have our students graduate with post-secondary outcomes. So everything about this grant is designed to ensure post-secondary outcomes. Next slide. So this grant will enable schools to expand the number of high school teachers eligible to serve as dual credit instructors through reimbursement of expenses associated with a master's degree with a concentration of 18 hours in their teaching discipline. So reimbursements for individuals may not exceed $25,000 for tuition and fees. And our maximum grant award for this opportunity was $150,000 for a district that could potentially serve 6 or more educators. So our eligible campuses are current planning, provisional, and designated campuses in this year. So the instructors will have to be serving those campuses. So we'll dig into that a little bit further. Thank you. So dual credit expansion grants provide pass-through funding that increase the number of high school educators eligible to teach academic dual credit courses at CCRSM campuses. And I know that in the application, in that survey, you identified a grant manager. This grant manager will identify and recruit educators that are eligible and willing to teach dual credit and can also make that commitment to complete an accelerated credentialing program and meet the hiring requirements of the dual credit provider. So SACSOC's accreditation standards require the dual credit teacher have that master's degree or higher in the subject of dual credit instruction or that they have a master's degree and also the 18 hours in the subject area. So to this end, the district has the opportunity to use this grant funding to build the foundation for an accelerated credentialing program. We don't see this as just today's work, but really this funding can do amazing work for the future of your dual credit pipeline. And so we have the opportunity to build those partnerships with 4-year and 2-year dual credit providers. So the program-specific assurances that grantees must commit to is that our educators will teach at eligible CCRSM campuses in this year and in 2022-23, and also the 23-24 year. Again, our maximum request is $25,000 for the reimbursement. So if there are additional costs, if there's a program that an educator would benefit from, but it costs more than $25,000, that additional funding would be the responsibility of the local education agency or the participant upon your local agreement. My experience from our first round of dual credit grants is that this $25,000 is more than sufficient for this endeavor. And all expenses related to the participation in the accelerated credentialing program are included. So this includes tuition and fees and textbooks and travels. So all of that is reimbursable upon successful completion of that dual credit, of that graduate coursework. So we are holding the standard of a passing score for each course taken. And the program funds will supplement or increase the level of services provided and not supplant CCRSM programming. And there's just a few more assurances on the next slide. We want to start with needs. And so we'll ask you to identify course needs that are aligned with your CCRSM crosswalks and to design the program in partnership with your dual credit provider and your 4-year university to ensure that the courses that are taken through this grant opportunity are actually going to successfully complete the requirements for the dual credit provider. And then, as you know, Crystal is lead over the designation application renewal. So we do require each of our campuses to apply for that renewal. I've got a calendar with those dates for us, but that's part of the assurances, and then to adhere to all performance measures for this grant. And I have a slide for that. So at this time, I'd like to provide an overview of the grant activities. So again, this is really not about a snapshot in time. It's about developing a new opportunity where you can have an opportunity to grow your own dual credit instructors. So you must partner with institutions of higher education. We require you to partner with a 4-year institution that will offer the coursework, as well as a dual credit provider, which can be a 2-year or 4-year. So this can look like a triad or a dyad partnership. And let's move to the next slide, please. I think it's likely that most of our partnerships will be a triad partnership where you have a 2-year institution that is already serving your district and your CCRSM partner. They need to be brought in early, and working with them, as well as the 4-year institution, will provide the infrastructure behind this accelerated credentialing program. And so what we're asking is that you will develop a local agreement across with your district, with each of those partners, that would include language to ensure that the educators participating in the program will be certified as dual credit instructors. So the agreements that you develop with your higher ed partners should articulate the roles and responsibilities of both parties. So this is not the same as the MOU that is supporting the implementation of the CCRSM program. So we know that our CCRSM schools have that MOU on their website. That's really about the students and the supports that students receive and the courses that are offered. This is a local partnership agreement for a different purpose and will be something new for your district. And then I just wanted, and so it may be that you use a dyad partnership where the four-year institution is serving both roles. Both of those are fine. So for the local partnership agreements, one second. We're asking that this grant will, sorry, one second, please. So I think, can we just move on to the next slide? I think we covered all of that. Thank you. So the participating instructors, the participating instructors, you'll need to be very strategic about who you are recruiting to participate in this program because we for sure want them to persist through this program and teach specific courses aligned with your program of study. So they need to be willing to make a commitment that's necessary to complete all of the academic coursework by the end of the grant period. And we talked about meeting SACSOC's accreditation standards. I have the link there for FAQ if you want to dig into that a little bit further. But really, your dual credit provider will know exactly what the requirements are. And my recommendation is to bring them as early into the process as possible. Next slide, please. So this grant was designed to provide maximum flexibility for your educators and to enable short-term wins as well as long-term wins. And we want to make sure that every single educator that can and is willing to participate be able to do so regardless of where they are on their educational journey. So educators must have a bachelor degree, but that might be all that they have, or they might already hold a master's degree and only require that 18 hours of concentration in a teaching discipline. Or they might already be in the process of having working toward a master's degree and just need to finish it. All three of those scenarios are appropriate for this grant. And I will say that one of the best practices that I've seen from our previous dual credit cohort is that our CCRSM campuses identified educators that had already had a master's degree and only needed those last 18 hours in the teaching discipline. So that if you focus on those that are closest to being credentialed as dual credit faculty, that would give you additional funding to be able to support additional educators with this grant. Again, this funding is all pass-through funding to our educators. Next slide. And we mentioned that educator expenses are reimbursable. So this means tuition and fees, textbooks and instructional materials, all expenses associated with enrollment, including application fees, GRE exam, and in-state travel costs. We do need to make sure that the educators are remaining in good standing. And so that will be the responsibility of the district to do that and to create a process to validate that courses have been successfully passed. And then upon that successful completion, you would request reimbursement from the Texas Education Agency. So there's no requirement regarding who's going to pay for the costs of the tuition and the fees upon registration. I've seen this successfully done where the district pays up the costs up front so that there are no out-of-pocket expenses on behalf of the teacher, and then the district is seeking reimbursement. And I've also seen teachers pay and then the district seek reimbursement and pay the educators at the end. Both are fine. This is a local decision about how you want to set up your processes. Next slide, please. So there are 5 specific grant requirements, and I want to review each one in turn, and we'll go to the next slide. The first program requirement is the identification of needs. So each grantee must develop a plan for identifying current and future needs for dual credit faculty. So the question that you would be asking yourself is, are there course gaps because of a lack of a qualified teacher to provide instruction in a specific discipline? Or do you have a new planning campus that's building an academic pathway or a new career pathway? So keep in mind that the need must be aligned with academic pathways that enable a student to earn a credential. So once you've identified the needs, you will complete a CCRSM crosswalk. And actually, that's going to help you to understand where your greatest needs are. And we're going to provide you a template for that. So this planning should include the development of new systems and processes that would allow the campus to ensure that each student cohort, as they enter a CCRSM campus, is offered a sequence of coursework that leads to a credential. So really, when you're spending time reflecting on the needs, think about it in a cohort, as a cohort based need as each successive group of students advance through the grades. Next slide, please. Okay, so the second program requirement is program design. And we did talk a little bit about this. Again, we're looking to offer an accelerated credentialing program where an institution, a 4-year institution, is providing graduate level instruction to participating educators. And that letter of assurance will be required as attachment number 2. So we don't have a template for that, but your university partner should say, yes, I am going to work with this school district to build this new pipeline to grow dual credit teachers. And then again, this credentialing program, that local partnership agreement must be executed by December the 1st. So we'll need a letter of assurance that says you're going to do it a little earlier than that, but it's going to take you some time to iron out what does this actually look like. And we're going to give you that extra time through December. And the courses, we would like for those courses to be offered in the spring and the summer so that our educators can take full advantage of this grant opportunity. But at mandatory that the courses are offered no later than the fall of 2022. So that does give you some time. Okay, the third program requirement is hiring. And this partnership that must be developed in partnership with a dual credit provider who commits to hiring or certifying the participating educators to teach dual credit. So I mentioned this before, but it's vital that the dual credit partner is brought in right from the start. So your assurance letter with the dual credit provider will be submitted as attachment number 3. And I'll give you the date in just a little bit, but it's at the end of October. But we know it will take additional time to really get that local partnership agreement in place so that the courses that your teachers will take are validated no later than December the 1st. Next slide, please. The fourth program requirement is a sustainability plan. So since our goal in this is to provide startup funds to build an accelerated credentialing program that will continue but beyond the life cycle of this grant opportunity, we require you to develop a local sustainability plan that will support this program beyond the life of the grant. So our recommendation is that the sustainability plan should include at minimum 2 years beyond the end of this grant opportunity, which would be June 2024. So we're looking at this through June 2026. So with that sustainability plan, the question becomes, how will you enable participants to complete the program? Who's responsible for the expenses beyond the grant cycle? Is there a plan to seek additional funding from local partners or other entities to extend this opportunity to other potential dual credit faculty in the future? Is there a plan to share the costs of this program between the college and the school district so that you can extend this grant? So we're really asking you to develop a strategy that would provide long-term financing for this, and not just these 6 teachers in this year. So your planning conversations with your institutions need to start with the end in mind, so that your local partnership agreement includes collaboration to design a sustainability plan within the grant cycle and beyond. And then the 5th program requirement is recruitment and retention. So you will have the opportunity in the next few weeks to identify and recruit educators for the accelerated credentialing program. And we are going to ask you to submit an accurate roster of teachers that will participate in this grant opportunity. And that will be attachment number 4. So the roster will include the names of all participating CCRSM campuses and the teachers from those campuses that have agreed to participate, and their anticipated cost for this program. So this is important for you to know, is this going to cost them $10,000, $18,000, $25,000? Because that's going to help you understand what the remaining unencumbered funds are and whether you might be able to recruit additional educators into this program. Each participating educator is going to sign a letter of commitment as attachment 5, and we'll go over that in a little bit. Next slide, please. So, recipients of Decision 9C funding for the dual credit faculty expansion are required to collect programmatic data to evaluate the success of local efforts of growing the dual credit program and expanding opportunities for students. Next slide, please. So there are required reports for this grant. We will send you a survey in the summer that will inform us whether you've been able to increase the number of educators credentialed to teach 1 or more college credits. This program should also result in the increase of dual credit course offerings and the diversity of those offerings, and increase the number of students that are enrolled in dual credit programming each year. So TEA is really looking for expansion in the scale and breadth of the dual credit program. And these reporting requirements mean that you will have to collect some local data. Again, we'll do a midterm report next summer and in also June 2023 with the final program evaluation upon conclusion of the grant. And this, I think, is a great opportunity for you to have the data points that you'll need to sustain this effort and to rally your stakeholders around these sustainability issues that will be able to extend this opportunity beyond the grant cycle. Next slide. Thanks. There are 5 required documents, and we've mentioned all of these, but I want to show you what they are and just kind of walk through them with you. Let's do the first one. So as mentioned, the need for your program should align with the program of study that the college and career ready school models programs offer. So we've provided a CCRSM crosswalk. This template is a single page that shows the detailed course sequence for each grade level and the credentials or degrees which may be earned. So I know that many of you are familiar with this template and you've likely already completed, or your program leaders have likely already completed one for their particular CCRSM program. So we're asking that each campus that has a dual credit, an educator participating in this opportunity would submit a CCRSM crosswalk. So again, if there's multiple campuses served with your district application for Decision 9C, we're going to ask you to compile the crosswalks from each of those CCRSM programs into a single PDF document so that we have this on hand. And then next slide. You each of you will secure a letter of assurance from the instructional partner. So again, the university must commit to working with the district to develop an accelerated credentialing program that will enable educators to earn a master's degree with a concentration in their teaching discipline. And this letter should commit to this program design that enables that completion of that program and should include the university's commitment to developing a long-term solution in partnership with the LEA to ensure the success and sustainability of the program. This is a one-page letter. It doesn't need to exceed that. And then next slide. Then again, your application must include a letter of assurance from your dual credit provider. So this is going to be attachment number 3. And similarly, this letter will describe the commitment of the dual credit provider to hire and or certify participating educators. So actually, we know it's the school district that's hiring the teachers, but they're integral in the process of certifying and saying, yes, these dual credit faculty meet our standards. And we want to make sure that they have a commitment to collaborate with your district to ensure that the courses your educators are taking will meet their credentialing standards. So again, this is a one-page letter with their commitment, and it outlines their roles and responsibilities as their dual credit, as your dual credit provider. Next slide. Okay, a participant roster. I did mention that we want to have a list of all of the schools that are participating and all of the educators that are participating. So we have this template of a master participant roster. In this, you will indicate the Texas teaching certificate that each educator currently holds and provide information regarding the name of the master's degree program that they anticipate enrollment in, as well as the additional graduate credits that they may need beyond the master's degree in order to qualify as dual credit faculty in their content area. So they're going to basically total up their anticipated graduate credits that they think that they will need to earn over the grant cycle and whether or not they will be able to complete the program before the grant ends. And they may need your help to estimate instructional expenses because you want it to be estimated as accurately as possible. So again, I think it will likely be that teachers are going to want to opt for writing in that it's going to cost $25,000. I don't think that's the case. So you may need to work with your partners to actually figure out the most accurate estimate for that. And I want to zoom into this participant roster for just a minute so you can kind of read through what the fields are. Again, please list all of the campuses included that will benefit from this TCLAS grant. And I've got space for your number 6 educators. You can just delete rows that are not needed and turn this in. There's a cover sheet that I didn't show here. It's not necessary for you to turn in the cover sheet as part of this attachment. Only this second page that has this image is what we will need for your packet. Thank you. All right, and then the 5th one is the educator's commitment. This is a customizable template that includes all of the required elements of TEA. So we've tried to make this as easy as possible, but do please feel free to customize it for your local context. So at minimum, each educator is going to provide their commitment for continuous enrollment so that they're able to complete the program no later than May 2024. So they're going to sign that. They're going to commit to exceeding the passing standards for each course. That should not be a problem, but we want to make sure that they're making that commitment. In this contract, they're going to list the dual credit subjects that they anticipate teaching. So again, those subjects are tied to the CCRSM crosswalk that you're completing for the campus. And then they are going to complete their participant profile. And if you'll notice, that's just one line, a single line that goes into the PDF document for attachment number 4. Crystal, do you want to go ahead and move to the next slide? And it just expands this image. I think for me, the biggest, besides having the accurate information on that table so that you can cut and paste, and then you have your attachment number 4 very easily constructed. This is really about getting that principal buy-in and making sure that we have the teacher signature and the principal signature. We're going to be looking for both of those because it's so important that the principal is on board and supporting educators in this extra program. I mean, on top of everything else that they're doing and the difficult landscape that we're in right now, we do need their principal to be providing support for this. Next slide, please. So for clarity, I want to review the allowable expenditures. We talked a lot about these. You can move to the next slide, Crystal. So this is state funding. So these are very specific to what's allowable in state contracts. You do have the ability to have direct administrative costs that may not exceed more than 10% of the award. So that means 90% of the award must be passed through to your educators. You may use this to make a direct payment to an institution of higher education and then seek reimbursement on the back end. You can use this to reimburse educators for any of their expenses associated with instruction. You may use this for reimbursement for expenses associated with enrollment into the university, like application fees, GRE exams, as well as in-state travel. And I think probably most important is what is not allowable, which is out-of-state travel for participants and travel for employees and leaderships that are not part of the accelerated credentialing program, and programmatic activities to support student instruction or travel. Again, this grant is only for our CCRSM faculty, and there are other grant opportunities to support students in their instruction and traveling opportunities. And then expenses such as equipment and consumables associated with the CCRSM grant are not appropriate or allowable with this funding. So I just wanted to have this all on the slide so you have one place where you can go to throughout the grant period to determine what is allowable. And if you have any questions, again, you just email our team and we can walk through specific scenarios and local context cases with you. So I do want to pivot to how to develop a strong implementation plan. Next slide, please. So I think it's really, this grant provides an opportunity to deepen your partnerships. I know that you have strong partnerships with your institutions of higher education, but this gives us an opportunity to clarify the roles and responsibilities about how we are going to address the challenge of not having enough dual credit instructors at the high school campus. I'm going to encourage you to communicate often with your higher ed partners, especially early on as you're determining the best type of program to build and how to advise your educators into course taking. And again, the dual credit provider is absolutely critical in assuring that courses taken are going to meet their standards for accreditation. And then again, begin with the end in mind. What is the ultimate goal for this program and these funds? It is the expansion of dual credit courses aligned with degree completion. So part of the program assessment is going back and using this time to reflect on what data you need to collect, how you will collect it, what types of processes you need to build in order to do that, and how you will use data to make mid-course corrections, whether it's data about are your educators successfully re-enrolling in the program and making continuous advancement through their program, or are you actually able to get students to enroll in the courses? We want all of that data to inform your program. And then, of course, successful grant implementation requires meeting TA deadlines. So I've tried to provide all of that in this package for you with our program reporting requirements and designation requirements. Next slide. Thank you. So we'll ask you to monitor the budget, again, making sure that the educators are maintaining continuous enrollment, making sure that their expenditures are being paid for in a timely fashion. And again, I just want to reiterate that you can come back to this presentation or go to our grants opportunities website for more information about allowable and unallowable expenditures for state grants. Again, your responsibility as the fiscal agent will be to validate the successful completion of the coursework, draw down the funds, communicate frequently for those drawdowns, and make sure that this grant is supplementing opportunities and not supplanting existing funding. Okay, so I think some of you that may have been on an early informational webinar saw this slide, and I've just updated it slightly to extend the implementation information. So again, there's has been somebody identified as the grant manager for the TCLAS application for this section. And this grant manager will be responsible for identifying the dual credit course needs and recruiting the educators that may be willing to participate in this program, and really explaining the commitment that's required and coordinating with the partner institutions of higher education. The program manager will collaborate with the university, the dual credit provider, the educators, the principals, and make sure that the roles and responsibilities are codified in a local partnership agreement. And ideally, educators are able to start coursework this spring or this upcoming spring 2022 or the summer. And in fact, summer is a great opportunity for starting this program. And but that will mean that we have those local partnership agreements in place. So your job at the district level is to put everything in place so that they can start as quickly as possible. And so let me, 1 second. So want to make sure that I covered everything. So after we get through this big push right in the fall, in the kind of the ongoing January 2022 through July 2024, really it's maintenance of this grant, validating the completion and the drawdowns and ensuring continuous enrollment, and coming back to that sustainability plan and making sure that you're working with your district and with your higher ed partners to do that. And then making sure that once the coursework is completed, that immediately those educators are stepping into dual credit instruction. And so we want to maximize the impact of this grant with that plan in place. And then complete the interim reports as requested. So in the at the end of the grant period in the summer of 2024, you will implement the sustainability plan and provide ongoing dual credit course offerings with your local solution in place and submit a final report to TEA. So that was a lot. And then if Crystal, if you'll go to the next slide, I've also provided a detailed timeline for your reference. We'll go one more slide. So this is just in a little bit different format. I'm the kind of person that needs to print a piece of paper and put it up on the wall right in front of my computer. So for those that need that, this has all of the exact dates that you'll need. So this project, we've asked for those 5 attachments that include letters of assurances from your 2-year and 4-year institution, the crosswalk, the participant roster, and the letter of participants commitment. That packet of 5 attachments is due on October the 29th. So that gives you about 6 weeks to submit that to our CCRSM mailbox. So that is a date to keep in mind. And then the next date that I think is the most important is December the 1st. So by December the 1st, that gives you a whole nother month, again, to work with securing those local partnership agreements with your college partners to make sure that educators can start their coursework as quickly as possible. Next slide. So we're anticipating you to be no good in December. So really after after the new year, starting in January, when educators are beginning their programming, there's really routine tasks of submitting those financial drawdowns and interim reports and designation applications through the end of the grant. And then let's go to the next slide, please. So this is a lot. This is a lot. So I just want to, no, that's fine. You can go to the next slide. So we had a packed informational session today, and I want to make it crystal clear what your immediate next steps are. So step 1 is to build or convene your higher ed partners to build the accelerated credentialing program. So you'll work on completing the crosswalk so that you can share what you feel are the greatest needs for your district and for the CCRSM campuses. And once you have that in place, you and your partners will codify the roles and responsibilities and say, here's what our plan is. This is what we need that will benefit both systems, the K-12 system and our higher ed system. And then go ahead and schedule some planning meetings for the year so that you can continue to build on that partnership. And you'll also need to recruit participants for this program. So once you know what the there is and are able to articulate this is what we're doing and what you're going to get yourself into, then you're recruiting participants with that letter of commitment. And then at the district level, you're compiling all of that information into a master roster as attachment number 4. Next slide. So please, so that's 5 documents, and we want you to email those to our CCRSM email address by midnight on October the 29th. Yeah, you can advance the slide. Thank you, Crystal. All 5 attachments are required. Please do us a favor and tag the attachment with the following underscore attachment number 1, crosswalk, underscore attachment number 2, letter of instructional assurance, attachment number 4, attachment number 5. So that way we can organize it on our end. Again, for those letters of educator commitments that is attachment number 5, again, please just bundle that into a single document and submit it as one PDF. And if you are working with a single 4-year institution that's going to provide both the graduate coursework and also serve as your dual credit provider, that's easy. You'll just send in one letter of assurance and label it with the tag underscore attachment 2 and 3. So next slide. So that's a lot. Again, I've provided a couple websites that might be useful as you move forward in the implementation phase of this grant. We have our TCLAS website link there, a link to our agency's CCRSM web page. I've got a couple of important external websites, including our learning community and our interactive blueprint and the designation site, where our campus leaders will go this fall to renew their designation. And all of that information is going to come through TEA. So you actually don't need to worry about campus designation. Crystal and I have that covered. Crystal, are there any questions? We have 5 minutes, 5 whole minutes.
Yes, there are a couple of them. One big piece I do want to mention, because there are campuses that are currently doing this work through the fall. Even though you're getting your notice of grant award in December, the grant funds do cover anything you've done starting September 1st, which is the first fiscal year. So anybody that's already doing a similar program like this but wasn't currently funded, if the activities were after or on September 1st, you can be reimbursed with the funds from this grant. One big distinction that I want to address is that we did have some planning campuses that received this award, and they will not have students, they will not have teachers technically teaching until 22-23. So they were wondering if there will be more follow-up or exception for those planning campuses that need a little bit more time for 1 year. My opinion is that we can be amenable, but if you could speak to that.
If I could?
Yeah.
This is really, I feel like this is an opportunity for short-term wins and long-term wins. So if there are educators that can be working towards this, and then the plan is for them to teach dual credit as a cohort advances, like if you're a planning campus, I think that's totally fine. But I also want to remind our good friends on the call that part of our blueprints do advance the notion of dual credit early. So I do think there's opportunities for a very thoughtful selection of who would be included in this grant and when they need to be included.
Yeah, so I think in summary, we're definitely amenable to any adjustments that need to be made, because we do want to make sure that we can accommodate everybody that has already been awarded. So another question that we received was surrounding defining what a credential means. I believe they mean possibly the credential that we're supporting the teaching staff through, and if the courses need to be in line with what should lead to that credential, whether it's a degree or an endorsement or an industry-based certification. If you could define credential.
Okay, so the way that I was defining for the accelerated credentialing program, I use that quite a bit. That is about growing dual credit educators. So it is the level of education that is required by the dual credit provider, pardon me, in order to be able to say, yes, Christine meets our standards for teaching mathematics for our institution, for our college. And so I'm really thinking about it as accreditation standards in that way.
Yeah, and there was a question regarding the different SAC COC requirements for core versus academic. Core, sorry, versus WECM. And I think you did touch on it in one of your slides, that there are different requirements, just like there are different credentialing secondary requirements. So we do want to make sure that while we do refer to master's and graduate degree goals a lot for the core academic teachers, we do understand that WECM versus and CTE is different.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
And I will say on our first dual credit grant, we had a lot of P-TECH campuses that were benefiting from that. As you know, P-TECHs do also offer a certain amount of core academic courses. So yeah, next question.
Yeah. There was a question about indirect cost, and what I'll say to that is please send an email to us at the ptech@te.texas.gov, so we can look into that a little bit further for you. So give me 1 second so I can go ahead and get to the next one. This campus they are CCRSM. They have a T-STEM, they're a school within a school. Would they need to identify the teacher candidates who teach within the STEM Academy, whether they're core or CTE? Would they need to identify all of them, or just the ones that will be taking advantage of this?
That is a good question. Just the educators that are taking advantage of this program and would benefit and receive the grant funding and be able to take courses that enable them to become a dual credit. So I don't need all of the faculty, just at a campus, just the ones that are benefiting from this grant opportunity.
Yep. And so I did have a question to repeat that email. I went ahead to forward to the TCLAS related email and the CCRSM email as well. If you are having TCLAS related questions, whether that be the budget, e-grants, the TCLAS processes and award processing, that will be tclass@tea.texas.gov. The decision point specific questions can be sent to ccrsm@tea.texas.gov. I'm going to leave this on the screen while Christine does a little bit of outroing, and I'll continue to answer the questions in the Q&A for a couple more minutes. Go ahead, Christine.
Okay. I just want to say thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and we know this is a really big lift in a very short window. And so As you come up with questions, please email us. I'm excited about this program as it is transformative and can really do some great work at expanding dual credit opportunities. So we hope that this opportunity will foster fruitful conversations for you and your partners and provide the foundation for long-term strategic planning for your district.
Awesome. Thank you, Christine. I'm going to keep this slide up for a little bit longer. I'm going to try and Q&A as much as I can in the chat. So if you do receive a message to send us an email to the specific mailbox, please do so. I apologize. I think we were able to answer about 20 throughout the presentation, but I know some of them we didn't get to at the end. But we appreciate you all sticking through, a lot of you through the whole day for PTAC presentation. So we thank you so much. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks.